Hi, and welcome everybody. Good evening. We are live here at the Carol L. Crooms Business Educational Cultural and Activity Center. That's why it's special tonight. We are here for part 4 of, well, welcome everybody who's listening at home. This is special to me because we're live and we have a live studio audience. Tonight is special because it's sacred. Tonight we close out our journey. We started weeks ago, a series that looks through the mind, the body, and our emotions, through our faith, and most of all, our community. This is part 4 of our mental health series, and we call this one the Healing Blueprint. Because at some point in life, every one of us reaches a moment where we have to rebuild, not from what we lost, but from what we learned. Healing is not a straight line. Healing is not a quiet process. Healing is not always pretty, but healing is possible. Healing is real, and together we can do it. Tonight we are blessed with a panel of leaders, medical, spiritual, therapeutic, and community voices who have lived it, studied it, walked with it, and helped others through it. And all of us right here at the Carol L. Crooms BECA Center are a part of this blueprint tonight. So take a deep breath with me. Inhale strength. Exhale anything that tried to follow you in here. We're going to talk truth. We're going to talk healing. And we're going to walk out of here with the tools that we can use immediately for our mind, body, and spirit. So welcome to part 4, which is called the Healing Blueprint. So before we get started, I have a fun icebreaker question for our beautiful panel. And first of all, I just want to break the ice by a handshake. Everybody, listen to audience, give yourself a round of applause for showing up and showing out. The hardest part is getting here, and we are all here. That says a lot to us. So thank you to this panel. I'm going to start right here from where I am. So I'm going to, yes, we have student minister, Brother Courtney Muhammad here. And I want you to tell us why this question, why this conversation was important to you. And if you had to tell us what energy you're bringing in tonight, what would that energy be?
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna start off with the energy. The first thing that came to my mind was love, but not the understanding of the emotion, but when they say God is love. So for that, God is love, love from the position of how God has manifested this creation. So the mother of emotions is love. So everything that is created by the Most High comes out of love. So with that said, what brought me to this conversation?
Yes.
Knowing that we have lost our way as a people, particularly Black people, and humanity has lost their way. And it's understood that in order to get back, we have to get back to that love, but not the cheap understanding of love or lust or like, but getting back into the fullness of what God's purpose for this creation was, which is understood as the perfection of man and woman. So the conversation is the conversation that I believe God wants us to have, because we're on an evolutionary path towards perfection. Even if we don't, it doesn't mean a perfect nose or perfect ears, you know what I mean? It's perfect in our character, perfect in our way and how we deal with our fellow travelers on this planet. So this is a conversation that is always needed in all communities. And I'm glad that we're having it at the Carol L. Crooms BECA Center. I know that's what my mother represented. And when you said it's not easy, or there's a roughness, or there's a difficulty factor attached to healing, I watched a woman who loved so much that it was painful, but she pushed through her pain and to continue to give that love. So that's what this center represents, or we're striving. Thank you.
Wow, that was a great opening. Thank you.
Yeah, right? Icebreaker.
Yes, that was a great icebreaker. And then, happy belated birthday to you, by the way.
Thank you. And he really set the bar high, right?
Yes.
So for me, when I think about the type of energy for me, I think about like positive energy. That's what comes to mind for me. Like I'm a person that's always optimistic. I always can see the good out of everything. Like that's my personality. Um, you know, as far as like mental health, I grew up in the Utica community, so I have always helped with so many different things. I've always been involved with different community activities and just wanting to make a difference in this community, especially when I finished my degree in social work. So I'm constantly giving back in some way. And I see that, especially I would say in the Black community, a lot of times it's like a taboo to be able to talk about like mental health. Like we shouldn't talk about it, keep it amongst our family members. So just being able to let community members know, you know, when I do come in contact with them, that it's okay. It's okay when you're not okay, and it's okay to be able to talk about it and get help. That's the true test, is to be able to get help and not be afraid.
Oh, thank you. And this is Debbie Hamell-Palmer, LMSW. Can you please tell us what that stands for?
So that's a licensed master social work.
Okay. So therapist and mental health professional, and you're local too. You're working right here in our community.
Yes, Mosaic Health.
Okay. And Dr. Jones, Dr.
Hey.
Cynthia Jones, the chief medical officer, also at Mosaic Health.
Yes.
All right. So the question that I have for you is a little different from the other two people that I asked questions, right? I'm just going to switch around with the icebreaker, right? So the
First name, right?
Yes. So the icebreaker I have for you, Dr. Jones, is it was here and it's coming back. See, this is live TV, everybody. Don't take ourselves so seriously. Oh, yes. Your superpower for healing. If you have one superpower that supports healing, compassion, patience, courage, listening, which one would you choose and why?
My faith.
Really?
I think it's because, you know, what God has done for me and my ability to share that with other people. You know, that's important to me, to give what God has given to me. You know, He's given me love. He's given me healing. He's given me wisdom. So those are the things I have to give to other people. He's given me care, concern, patience, you know, understanding. And all of those things that He's poured into me, I try to give that out to other people. So it's the vertical to the horizontal, and then hopefully the patients can go vertical.
I like that.
Yep. The reason that I'm here is because I've given 2 presentations here, one on breast health, one on prostate cancer or prostate health.
Mhm.
And both times there were so many questions on the mental health aspect of being diagnosed or possibly being diagnosed. I thought it was important to come back and revisit those issues and not gloss over the mental health, because it's important to me. It's also why I wanted Debbie to come with me, because she's one of our therapists, and to show that we work together, and that's how we get the job done as a team. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, as time goes on. But thank you for
Absolutely.
asking me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jones. Enoshja.
Hello, everyone. Enoshja Ruffin, community organizer with Citizen Action of New York. And the icebreaker.
The icebreaker for you is your healing superpower.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you the same question. If you have one superpower that supports healing, compassion, patience, courage, listening, which one would you choose and why?
I think for me, it would be empathy. I think it's important that we're able to empathize with others, and to be able to meet people where they're at. I think a lot of us, we seem to like silo what we're going through. So when you open up and you're able to share your truth and your story, you're able to see, I think we're able to see as humans how interconnected we are. And that's what brought me to this conversation, is my own healing journey. I dealt with a lot of mental health throughout my healing journey. And I promise God that if you get me through it, I will lead by an example, and I will share my truth and my story to bring awareness to other people on not only mental health, but the power within self and God.
Love that. Thank you. And Kinetria, last and certainly not least.
Same icebreaker?
Yeah, same icebreaker for you. What's your healing
My
superpower?
superpower. If I had to pick one, because I think I have a couple strengths, but I love looking at the big picture, right? And then she said the interconnection is so important, looking at those different elements, the levels of healing within self, within our community, and everything else around us. I love finding those interconnections and bringing something to it. And the reason that I'm here is because Sparkle and I have worked and talked for hours and hours and hours and hours about mental health, and we've had really powerful conversations.
Yes.
Sparkle always brings curiosity with tons of questions, and I love it. And I support all of this, obviously.
Yes.
Being in social work myself. So I have a heart and the path. So I'm
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. And Kinetria Howard also is Master of Social Work. She recently just graduated. What school you graduated? Was it Delaware State University? She just another Black Master of Social Work. And I just want to keep clapping for. Well, first of all, I can say this is over already by you all's introduction. Thank you so much. This panel is so beautiful. Everything you just opened up with is very heartfelt, and thank you for being here. So I worked with Kinetria. She was actually my worker for about 2.5 years. And a lot of, when I say worker, it was through an agency. I think it was called Central New York Health Homes, if I'm not mistaken. She was my assigned worker. You know, I was struggling with mental health, and she came in because she was a Black woman. I opened up to her. She listened. She was not judgmental. Because of her, I was able to move and get stable housing for me and my children. This was years ago. She helped me so much. So that's another reason why representation matters. You know, the color, I mean, people say color don't matter. For me, it matters. Everything that I was going through, I was, you know, given all of these workers. Nobody could get through to me. But Kinetria got through to me. And she said that she wasn't going to be able to work with me until she wasn't my work anymore. So she's not my work anymore. I graduated. So she's here, right? So the first question that I have for the panel, I have a series of questions. I'm not going to keep everyone too long, but this conversation is really important. So however we feel we're going to flow today, I promise we're going to flow that way because God is in control.
Absolutely.
So the first question that I have is, what does the healing blueprint mean to you? As an advocate, as a student minister, as a social worker, as a community person, as somebody who overcame mental health, what does the healing blueprint mean to you? And I'm going to start with you, Enoshja.
Yes. I don't have my notes, guys, so bear with me. I think the healing blueprint means to me is like honoring my foundation of self-love, how I show up for myself and my community, how I honor my boundaries, my self-care routine, my mental health with my children, like what am I, I guess, honoring my values. And like, I think daily though, because it's a daily thing. And like literally you have to make a routine daily, mental health wise, self-care wise, emotional health wise, to keep you centered. Because that's important. Like that's the key to mental health, groundedness.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. And I'm going to go to you, Debbie, next. What?
So for what it means to me is just becoming the healthiest version of yourself. You know, whether it's actually all three, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Because if mentally you don't feel well, then it can impact your physical health, right? And if emotionally you don't feel well, it can impact your mental health, it can impact your physical health. So it can take on so many different symptoms. Like if, you know, mentally, I see a lot of patients, like they don't feel well, but it comes out in physical symptoms. Like they might have increased heart rate, shortness of breath, fatigue, or anything like that. So it's really just the goal is to have that stability, right? To be able to ground yourself in different ways to help you to be stable. and utilizing those coping strategies to help you get through the day to day. And also self-care. Self-care is priority. I always say if I don't take care of Debbie, I can't take care of my patients. So that's my goal always, is to be able to take care of me. But I'm also a wife. I'm also a mother. I'm also a community member. I'm also a doula. So
Yeah.
I need to be able to really balance all those different things out. And that's my goal, is to try to balance everything out. And self-care is priority, so I can
Wow.
continue to take care of others.
Wow. Dr. Jones, same question.
For me, it's honesty. I think the first thing you have to do is be honest with yourself. And I know when we do a depression screening, so everyone should have one annually done by their primary care provider. And we ask a set of questions. They've been studied and they're tried and true, so they're not random questions. And when I can have a patient honestly answer those questions, and we take it like a vital sign, it's like your blood pressure. And if this vital sign is positive, being able to be honest and take off all of the garments that you wear and just come and say, yep, this is me and I need help. That's how you start the healing. Because I can't get anywhere. You can't get anywhere if you're always covered in these garments that cover over what's really going on inside. And that one-on-one time to peel that off and have that one-on-one time with a therapist, with your primary care provider, that is critical, because you don't have to do it all the time, but you have to do it at some point. So then you can go to the next step. So that's that's my healing book. It's honesty with yourself.
I like that. Kinetria?
I would say similar to what these ladies said, knowledge of self, right? We study the world, we study everything around us, and we need to study ourselves a bit more, being more in touch with what's going on with our bodies and the connection to our minds and our souls. And it shows up with the honesty, it shows up with the self-care, and it's continual. And you'll come to understand it's very unique to yourself. You can't really compare it to anyone else's blueprint.
Save the best for last here.
Right. First of all, in the name of God, Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. As she said, knowledge of self. And when you said healing blueprint, because we got a little cheat sheet on that one, I thought about the healing, of course, and then blueprint. And blueprint is a plan. So from the spiritual side, because we have lost our way, it's not that we don't have it in us intact. It's just that we're having a hard time getting to it. That's where knowledge of self is very important. But I thought about these two books, the Bible and the Holy Quran. These are healing blueprints. Unfortunately, if you look at go to the Bible, we go with what's most known. It said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, right? And then you have a situation whereas man and woman fell because of a serpent or a devil or someone who used tricks and lies and deceit. So now you have a setup in the Bible and in also the Holy Quran, whereas at one time we were one with God and we didn't need healing. And now through lies, deceits, and tricks, we have lost that favor and that connection. And now if you look at the entire Bible, it's us trying to get back to ourselves. And it doesn't happen until the end, because it says in the scripture, all in Adam die, but all will be made alive in Christ Jesus through a quickening spirit. So when I think of a healing blueprint, if I cut myself, not doc,
Please don't.
but it's understood that there's a natural healing. God already has the healing that's there. So it's a big question for me. I don't want to take too long, but it says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves. So part of the blueprint is that through our loss of connection, we're no longer humble. We're islands and we don't really want others to help us. And we've been injured by it. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins and heal their land. So the healing comes from the reconnection to the Most High. And all of us, as we're kind of spiritual beings, we bring to the healing process what special gift God has given us, but we have to be united in that plan. So a healing blueprint for me is right there in those documents. But because Satan had an opportunity to deceive many of us that carry those documents, we have not been good practitioners of the word, because the word doesn't come through speaking it, it comes through living it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that really resonates with me. And along my journey, Brother Courtney, I've come along people who struggle with mental health. And a lot of their struggle actually started with those books. Meaning the people who have caused harm to them has come out of churches, has come out of, mosques, or come out of religious spaces, or even if their parents were religiously active and their parents were the hands of their abuse or had a part in mental health. Like, how would you speak to that person that might be traumatized by these holy books, that might want to,
So one of the things that you pointed out, and Dr. Jones kind of everyone seconded, is it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you conduct yourself. So when we say that those books are to live, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and walked amongst men. So where we have lost that as a people, we've been carrying the Word, once again speaking it, but we haven't been living it. So the difference is Christ and Messiah shows us how to live the Word. So now when you're living the Word, you're not necessarily leaders, you're servants. So you're not trying to stuff some scripture down somebody's throat. You're not trying to pull them into your mosque or your church and think that the healing is there, because there's been a lot of destruction in those houses. You're striving to produce a community of individuals, like they say the house of God represents people who are like blocks, like bricks. But what brings us together is the mortar of love. So it's not necessarily that we're preaching the word, we're actually using the blueprint of our deviation and how those who have deviated come to the position to understand that there is an adversary to our rise in our connection with God, and we must fight. So now, to your point, people who have already been damaged to a certain point, they need healing servants. They need those of us who are on the same page, that are there to help and carry them to the end, help them to, or have a place in which they can come, whereas it's as near perfect as we can make it. Because we find out that when you take ill or mentally so-called imbalanced individuals and put them in a balanced environment, they automatically, naturally take on that balance. So we have to, once again, be more doers of the word and not just hearers of the word. So
thank you, brother. Did anybody else want to speak to that? Because I just went off a little bit. Yeah, good on. All right. So, Dr. Jones, I was actually waiting all 4 series to talk about this, and most especially talk about it with you and Debbie, because, and also all of you actually, but Dr. Jones, you most especially, because I've also experienced people who won't listen to anybody unless it's coming from a doctor, unless it's coming from a mental health professional. So this is the question that I have for you. Well, actually, the topic that I want to talk about was, how does mental health show up in our bodies? How does it affect our bodies? So
so we were challenged to come up with a project, and in our health center, behavioral health, dental, and medical, we all work very closely together. So one of the projects we did was, when we did our depression screening, we looked at people who were also had uncontrolled diabetes. There's a test called hemoglobin A1C. It lets us know how your blood sugar has been doing the past 3 months. Well controlled is 7 or less. Anything higher than that is not so great. Particularly those patients who had like 9, 10 high scores, we did a depression screen for those patients.
Mhm.
They also had high depression scores. So what we did was, I would talk to them about, let's deal with your mental health issues, because I can't expect you to go home and do anything we've talked about for your diabetes if there's a whole lot of other stuff going on. It's not going to happen. So for those patients who, willingly went and got the counseling, met with a therapist, they met with our nurse care manager, who was going over again, how do you eat? Lifestyle changes that need to go on. Because it's not just about the medication, but even if I give you the medication and you've got a lot going on at home, you forget the medication. Or you get stressed and you stress eat the wrong stuff. Or I'm overwhelmed, I can't exercise. So all those things came together. What we showed was the patients that had the therapy, met with the nurse care manager, took what I said and did it, their blood sugars got better. The people who didn't engage in all of those, it was a struggle for their blood sugars to get better. And that was just a small little study in our facility. So that just goes to show you need that balance. It's important. And so that's why this is important to me, because this is stuff that has to be addressed. When like I said, when I talk to you in the office, when you go home, I don't know what you do. I'm hoping that what I told you, you can take in. But if there's so much stress and things going on at home, you didn't hear me. So I don't remember we talked about the breast health awareness,
Yes.
or prostate health. If you're going to get a diagnosis, take somebody else with you. It's a lot. You can't hear all that. You need somebody with you so that they can help you go through this process. It's a lot, and that's okay. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I also you talked about, trust being another issue.
Yeah.
So I just had a patient recently. They did have a diagnosis of breast cancer. They talked to the oncologist. When I read the note, looked like they were going to go ahead and get treated. But then they called me and said, no, I'm not, because of the trust issue. And I looked like the patient. We had a talk appointment for 45 minutes. Didn't tell them what to do, but there's some mental health issues that actually they had already been to mental health with and talked about, which was good. Some things from their past, but we were able to sit down and go through, here are your choices, and here's now how you approach the oncologist. But we had to break down some stuff first. And that person was totally honest about how they felt. And I said, here are your options, and I will walk through this with you, whatever you choose. I will love you, whatever you choose. I just want you to have an informed decision without the noise. And that's why, that's what needs to happen. And so I'm hoping that, primary care providers, that's what you got to find, that connection with your primary care provider. And then for me, like I said, I'm not the therapist. So in our health center, when those things come up, I'm looking for Debbie. Like, I'm not a therapist. I know some techniques, but that one-on-one, not dealing with, okay, here's your medication. Okay, now here's your mental health. We need to separate this stuff out and give this some time to bathe in it. You're gonna have to bathe in it. Sorry, the honesty about it. You have to bathe in your mental health and get this stuff cleared up. So Debbie, I don't know if you want to talk about.
Yeah, Dr. Jones refers a lot of patients to me. But I mean, it really does have an impact when they have, some type of chronic condition, diabetes or high blood pressure. Really, meeting with me definitely helps to kind of see what other factors, or, even if it's environmental, that's, sort of barriers to them, taking medication. Sometimes it's they're afraid of the medication. Like, you see these commercials where they list 100 things, including death, so there's just, a lot of it is, being able to provide them psychoeducation around it. Obviously I'm not a medical provider, but the nurse is able to do that. Or, if they have questions, I consult with Dr. Jones or, any other practitioner that's there, but really educating them and You know, when you work on the mental health part of it, it really does make a difference in them, you know, getting treatment, taking medication, because I would say majority of the patients that we work with, they have so many things. It's not just like one thing that they have going on. Sometimes there's 10 things. So my job is to be able to sort of break those things down. What is the most important? What do we need to focus on right now? If your diabetes is your A1C is a 14, I mean, that's significant. You can end up in the hospital, obviously death. So really getting that down, how can we work on it? Everything is a step, but just, you know, a lot of it is really all of us working together as a team. That's what really helps. Team approach, I think, is everything. So, and just letting them, you have to be compassionate. You have to, patients or clients or anyone, they have to know that you care. Anyone can do a job, but you have to be compassionate. You have to be empathetic. You have to show them that you do, you know, and I'm so grateful and blessed that I have patients that are, you know, they're like, I don't know how I got through this. And sometimes I'm like, you know, I learn, it's not me just teaching you, but I truly learn from them, right? We learn to the day we die. So it's a lot of education.
So you mentioned factors, and it makes me want to think about myself for a moment, because now I'm 44. So 10 years ago I was 34, and 10 years ago I had a 13-year-old. 10 years ago I had a 7-year-old, and I had a 10-year-old. So I feel like I have more going on. Like I have more issues going on, but I felt like I was resilient. Like I could go past them. It didn't bother me none. But now I'm 44, and I feel like one little thing can make my heart palpitate, can make me bust out in the sweat now that I hear something. I just feel like my nerves is bad. So then I found out, you know, we did it here, right? The show right here about premenopause and menopause. Right here at the CLC, and Sister Tioka Muhammad put me on to something called the vagus nerve, you know, and how all of that comes together. So when it comes to mental health, right, is premenopause or menopause symptoms, or the symptoms that show up like the palpitations and the my nerves is bad, don't tell me another thing, are those contributing factors to mental health, or even diabetes? Because I didn't have any, my A1C, everything was fine until this so-called premenopause hormonal thing kicked in. So is that a thin line? Like, am I bugging out?
No, that's a real thing. You know, people say they go postal. That's real. And so we need to work with your primary care provider to find treatment for that. There's some that are more natural treatments. There are natural things that you can drink, like black coash. There's a lot, sea moss. There's some other things that help. You just need to talk to your primary care provider about them to make sure they don't interact with any medication if you're on medication. But there's a lot of things that you can do for menopause and premenopause. Diet is high on the list. As we talk about food as medicine, and that's one of the things I'm trying to focus on for the end of 25 and 26. The way that you eat really ties in a lot to your emotions. Caffeine, high sugary, those things, those crashes, those ups and downs, that goes along with menopause and premenopause as well. But I think, you know, your ability to talk about that with your provider, those are things that need to be, you know, they need to be addressed from a medical standpoint. But there's also some mental health aspects to that too, because I feel like at times people can choose who they lash out at with the menopause. You know what I mean? You got to be careful who's conveniently located in your home. I put it that way. And so you have to learn, this is when, again, going to the therapist, learn techniques that when I see this happening, what am I going to do? Because there's therapeutic techniques that you can be trained to put them into action. There's also medication, like I said, there's other stuff you can do too. But I also think there's things that you have to be prepared for. You know your body, you know when this is going to happen. Well, what am I going to do with that emotion? And that's where therapy is critical.
I come right over here to the TLC and mess with my comments.
And I
That's
just,
a-
I just want to
please.
add something to that, and Dr. Jones can, also, I think it's important, because we know anxiety, it definitely, it can increase, but also making sure, like, is it just the anxiety palpitations, or do I need to have a cardiac evaluation? Because that's important too. I mean, we can assume that it's just anxiety, and I'm not saying need to be, but sometimes it is better to err on the side of precaution, just in case, make sure EKG and all that, because I have read about it, and I think I was on a training where, like the increase, especially with African American women with cardiac issues too, so.
Yeah, and that's true. So when when someone comes in with menopause or premenopausal, I'll still do some hormonal checks too to make sure, is that what it is? You can check to see if you're really in menopause, but I can also check your thyroid, check some other stuff that, might be going on, because the two ride together. And so like I said, with the diabetes, the out of control diabetes and the mental health, I'm like, I can't treat one without treating the other. It's not going to happen. It won't happen well. It's like, I'm just giving you stuff and nothing's really happening.
Right.
And so I agree with Debbie. You gotta look at the physical and the mental. They're not separate. They never really were, but they're not separate. Oh, there's a.
Yeah. Oh, very good. This is the perfect time for questions. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
What's the spectrum for menopause, like the ages?
It varies. Sometimes you can look to see what happened with your mom. Like if she went into early menopause, sometimes genetically we see that in families. I've had women go into menopause as early as like 38, 40. It's not always 50, or it can be later. And then people are like, well, what is this? I'm like, yep, it's happening. You might be 58, 59, 60. And how long it lasts, it can last for a couple of years. And so I think talking about the symptoms, when you feel these things coming on, like anxiety or short-tempered or the sweat. Somebody came in the other day, they were like, I'm like going through stuff like crazy. I'm up in the middle of the night. I was like, okay, time to do some tests. Let's talk about this. Let's see what's going on. And like I said, I would check their thyroid, but I'm going to check their hormonal stuff too, because I think with the symptoms, and if your menstrual cycles aren't there anymore, then we gotta talk. We gotta do some talking about menopause or perimenopause. Now, making sure that your provider does those tests, communicates that with you, and then what do you want to do about that? What medication do you want to take? Do you want to take medication? Do you want to try something natural? And like I said, the mental health aspect of it, because it can bring a lot of chaos into the home. And I feel like sometimes, I was a woman, I feel like you get blamed for it, but it's like, it's something you can't help, but what are we going to do to help you help it? Because there are ways to help you help it. We just got to find the way that works for you. Thank you.
Another question? Oh, yeah.
No, just hearing the idea of how the awareness helped you.
Yes.
Just the self-awareness is how much that helped you, and how I learned to deal with menopause and perimenopause. I remember when my father used to have dishes and plates and everything thrown at him, but he was cool and handled things. But we didn't know that my mother possibly was going through something where she was very short-tempered. And so I learned how to navigate through stuff like that. But how many men have been on the other side of what a woman is going through and think that they're being blamed for something? And how many homes have been destroyed, or houses have been divided because of what a woman goes through, and there hasn't been that awareness. So as the awareness comes and the self-knowledge comes, to the point, diet plays a big part of it. And then having a community where you have caregivers that understand and get it. Our history in the past has always been, we're not going to no doctor, because they're going to throw some medication, they're going to misdiagnose us. And next thing we know, we're just part of how they make their money to get their boats and their cars and go on vacation. We don't get true healing and care. So the awareness that we see going on right here, I think, is the most important part. And then that self-healing can start to happen. So thank you, sister.
Yeah, getting out of denial. So I'm processing, I'm trying to separate myself and be a professional here. Okay. So I wanted to say this as a disclaimer. So I was talking earlier before this session started about Black people in America. You know, we are dealing with a system that by now we have to have some type of mental health just because of the way things are systematically placed. You got red line and you can't get a loan, you can't live here, don't come to me, don't work here. Matter of fact, you a crab, I'm in this barrel, I'm gonna kick you down. Like we have been almost so traumatized, marginalized to the point where some of us are in denial that we don't think that we're suffering at all. We don't think that there's no mental health. I talk to a lot of people all the time. I think that I'm in therapy for people who don't even have therapy at this point because people are just in denial. So the next question is, why do people ignore the signs that our body gives us? Why do we think? I have a theory. I think it's the system. I think the system that we're living in is place that even if we try to heal, it will be almost impossible to heal. Or if you heal from that, I'm gonna give you another issue. Systematically, that's going to be a barrier for you. So it's like enough is enough. How much more can we take? So I'm gonna go to you, Kinetria, with that question. Why do you think we ignore the signs that our body gives us?
So the baseline is the stigma, right? You take the time out to acknowledge all of these symptoms and side effects of whatever's going on. We don't have time to be sick.
Yeah.
You have to carve out time to be well and be happy, let alone be sick and to tend to whatever else is going on at the core. And that's the short answer. I can go on.
Yes, go on.
But really, we just don't have time, or we're ignored, or we're shamed about it, or it's seen as a weakness. And again, I don't have time for you to see my weakness because I got things to do.
Can I add really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you said when I was raising my kids, I was resilient. I raised them to the level of like I just had to be resilient. And I think as Black people, we are taught resilience early on, which disconnects us from our bodies. We don't know, even if we feel burned out, we don't feel it. We just keep going. And I think if we have more awareness, like, no, you're a human first. Your mental health is important. Your emotional health is important. Your physical health is important, and it to be taught as something that you have to do. I think if we kind of change the language of how Black people show up, what's asked of us, and just bring us back to our humanness. Like we're not just a body that works. We're not just strong Black women or Black men. We are human beings. So I think by us shedding this awareness from a doctor's perspective, spiritual perspective, and community, it's just like, yeah, we're in a crisis altogether, but how we show up, how we continue to have these conversations, how we show our humanness and the things that we're going through is how we heal and move forward, I think.
So thank you for that. And it's some people that actually told me that they don't go to therapy. They tune into Reality Speaks TV. This is their therapy. The Sister Cypher, we be hooking them up. We be, Sister T, where you at, Sister T? We be coming through. Sister T be coming through. People were like, listen, is Sister T gonna be on tonight? Because I'm not listening otherwise, So some people just don't like therapy. They just like to Brother Courtney's. We don't want to go. What's. So representation matters. That's why I have these lovely professionals here today to show the world that there are Black therapists, there are Black medical professionals. We just have to find them, or we just have to be proactive in what we're doing. Brother Courtney.
Once again, when we talk about our people being damaged from our sojourn here in America, we couldn't be damaged as we are if the people who were over us were not more damaged than us. So we are the product of a very damaged people who took us into slavery, who did not have the qualities that were needed in order to nurture civilization. They were destroying civilization. And many a times we take this on our shoulders that, we're just messed up, but the people who have ruled us are the ones who it trickles down from the top.
Yes.
So in reality, God said he's going to take the bottom rail and what? Raise it to the top, and take the top rail and raise it to the bottom. The last shall become first, and the first shall become last. So we're in a position that God is going to do the healing. So with that said, it's forcing us. Our pain is forcing us inward.
Yes.
Our pain is because we done gone to the hills for what we think we need. But when we settle down and listen to that small voice that is always there with us, because we are truly God's people, there's no question. So with that said, we're sick and we're tired because we're trying to live in a system that is diametrically opposed to God's way. And the only way we're going to get out of this is by learning God again, getting that self-knowledge. Because when you think about it, she said depression, most of us are depressed. Wait. What does that mean? Depressed. We are suppressed. So the God in us is suppressed in this world. And what do you think you're going to be if God is suppressed? We might think we okay, but then when we look at the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and we try to mimic what we think is success, then that gets us into the spin that we can't get to those levels. So what becomes our way in which we satisfy this lack of success? We eat wrong. And sugar is a drug. And a lot of the foods that we eat in our depression, it gives us a little feeling of a high. It makes us feel a little good for that moment, and it sticks with us. And so now when we get into those struggles of life, what do? We go to bad eating, as the doctor said. And then when you get into that cycle of eating wrong, you don't have the chemical balance in your brain to deal with the real stresses of everyday life. And we've been taught that the brain cell of man is created to think right. And as soon as you put lies, tricks, and deceit in the mind of man, you destroy the hardware. So once the hardware of thinking is destroyed, making the proper choices, you're just not going to be able to do it unless you have a team of individuals who are trying to now. The book talks about nutrition. Both books, not just physical, not just spiritual, not just mental. It talks about how we need to eat in order to live physically. But because we're so deprived of certain nutrients, and they've lied to us with the foods that they have been giving us, we think that nutrients or those foods are good enough to sustain God's thinking. And it doesn't work. So we have to have a balance, as the doctor said, of physical food nutrition, exercise and sleep, rest, along with thinking the right thoughts, because they're all together. In truth, if I were to end like this, right now, our body dictates to our mind. So all of the problems we get into is because our body is telling us what we want, what we desire. Whereas it's supposed to be your soul that dictates your mind, and your mind puts your body in check. But the world that we're living in is upside down and backwards. So the bigger picture is God is trying to bring us together, and then we have to deal with love. We have to be patient. We have to be kind. We have to be long-suffering. We can't be all about ourselves. We have to understand that there is a need for us to unify more than there is a need for us truly to pray, because our prayers get answered through our unity. So I'll leave with that.
And I'm leaving too. So we pretty much just talked about this question, and I'm not going to keep you much longer. I'm going to ask the audience if they have any questions, and then we're going to also go here to see if there's any questions. So we actually shout out to LinkedIn. For our professionals who are watching on LinkedIn, our LinkedIn viewership is growing. So LinkedIn, we're streaming live. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now and Facebook. So Facebook is where we have the most people watching. So I'm just going to go check it out in a moment. But I think we talked about this question. What is the biggest barrier stopping people from seeking help? And what do we do to shift that? So we talked about the stigma, and then we talked about God. So what about the person who's watching that's in between God or stigma, or doesn't believe in God, or doesn't even believe that there's a stigma. How can we penetrate that mind, or that, like, what can we say to that person? And this is a free question for anybody who wants to, talk to the people at home. Because I feel like our executive function mind, I was talking to you about executive function, which is the tasks, the getting things done and all things like that. I feel like we're stable. But for the people who are unstable, how can we penetrate them to seek knowledge of self?
I would ask the question is like everything we said, and you open it up with it, is God is love, self-love. A lot of us don't love ourselves, and it shows. And some of us don't know how to. We've been through so trauma and so forth, so much trauma and so many trials and tribulations of our own lives. It's hard to pinpoint like how do we recover from it. But it's through love for self, understanding God loves love for you. Because when you love yourself, you show up different. You take care of yourself. You have a self-care routine, or whatever you do to take care of yourself. You honor yourself, and the more that I honor myself, my mental health, my emotional health, the more I'm able to show up for myself, my children, my community. And so it's like starting with, ask yourself, do I love myself? And and then from that answer you go deeper, and then you bring God in it. First, for me, God like kind of called me through this journey of trials and tribulation and just all the things that I was going through as a first generation college graduate, dealing with my own, again, mental health journey and so forth. But the first, I think, step for me was like, no, I don't think I love myself because I'm staying in this environment. I'm still connected to this person, or I'm still doing this habit. And then I started to change it. Like, no, if I love myself, this is how I show it. This is the help that I seek out, the education for myself to get better that I need to seek out. And that's how it started for me.
I'm going to say, I think, and I've tried to say this in every talk, as a physician, you have to find a primary care provider that you connect with. If there's no trust, there's no, I don't know what's happening at home. I love when my patients come in and say, my blood pressure's high because I just had chicken. I'm like, okay. Well, then I'm not like throwing 50 million pills at you. I've got to change your diet. So it's got to be that, you're able to come in. We've had people walk into the health center crying, put them in a room. They're willing to tell us, this is what just happened. My house just got burned. My grandmother just died. My so-and-so. You have to have that kind of connection, like you said, to be honest with yourself, to know yourself, but then you got to find somebody you trust to talk to. It's that trust level, it's that. So even if you haven't found that connection with God yet, not that you can't, but you haven't, I'm representing the love from God. So even if you don't know him, I'm trying to love you the way he would. I can't do it. I'm not perfect. So that's probably not going to happen, but I'm trying. And so if you can connect like that with your provider, your therapist, that's how you're going to get the help. And that's when like the stigma can fall off of it's I got mental health. So this, no, you're just human. You're going through, and I'm here to help you walk through that so we can get through this thing together and get to the other side of you. And those things, that's important, but you gotta seek it out. If you don't find, I always say there's a primary care provider out there for everybody. It may be somewhere, you may have to search a little bit more than you want to, but there's a lot of us out there. Find that person, connect, and make sure you go deep. Don't give up. Don't give up till you get the love you need. Really, it's not even just care. I tell people I hire for wisdom and heart. That's what I'm looking for. You need to know your stuff, but I need to know that you have heart. And I've learned that so much in every community that I've worked, and in this community, you gotta have both. It's a lot of hurt here. There's a lot of love here too.
I'm coming to you, Doctor. Who else coming to Dr. Jones?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Certainly not taking on a patient.
I knew I was gonna hear that.
We can-
open up a side clinic here.
Right here, right, yeah.
With some helping hands, this to be
Yes.
the end.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So,
And I think, no, one thing I like to add is that you don't have to be defined by your mental health, right?
Mm.
I always tell the patients that I work, but you don't have to be defined by that. Like, hi, I'm Debbie, I'm depressed, right? So it's just getting the help that you need. The goal is to learn coping strategies, right? We always say medication is the last resort. We are not there to say, hey, you need to take this medication or that medication, but if you need it for stability, you may need it. But you just never know. I mean, some patients only need medication for a certain time, depending on their diagnosis. It just varies, but you don't have to be defined by it. And it does make a difference when you have a therapist that you really can connect with and have a great rapport. That's important. My goal is always we're supposed to be short-term counseling, right? I feel like a lot of patients become long-term. I'm always trying to graduate them, but they're like, Debbie, I have one more thing. And I'm like, no, you're good. Because part of it is teaching them to be able to utilize that. I'm not always going to be there. So I want them to learn how to utilize those coping strategies when they have that stressor in their life. It doesn't mean that they're back at point A, right? A setback doesn't mean that. It just means that, hey, you had a little bit of maybe a little bit of chaos, and the tools that I taught you, that's what you sort of go by. And that's always the goal with therapy in general, is
can
to
you share
remember.
some of those tools?
Yeah, so one of the ones I think is important that I utilize a lot is cognitive CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. I think the goal is to really be able to restructure how you think, right? It sounds simple, but like when you start having all these automatic thoughts, how can I change them, right? So like, oh, I'm not going to be anyone. I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't achieve this. I'm not going to lose weight. So being able to, when you have those thoughts that just sort of pop in your mind, how can I change that to something more positive or more neutral? It really does, because that's the goal, is to work on that part of it. Medication is not going to do that. You really have to work on that and to change your thought process. It's easier said than done. Like I will always say that to patients, but it's just working on it. And right as you get used to doing it, oh, I have this thought, so how can I change it to be a little bit more neutral or positive? And I'm not saying you have to be unrealistic with that, but like, how can I change that? Like, okay, I'm just having a challenging day. Just changing a couple words and what you're thinking can make a huge difference. That's one of my main things that I work on, and just breathing and, really learning, not just I'm breathing like this, but like deep breathing. How do you breathe? Sometimes it's just really breathing from, right, your diaphragmic breathing, and really breathing out and practicing, not just when the times when you have crisis, but it's something that we should practice every day. And grounding, right? Grounding is being able to, like, when you're in that moment, you have trauma or any type of crisis, you wake up in the middle of the night, like, what can I focus on, right? I can put my feet on the ground. What can I focus on? Maybe 5 things. We always say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but 5 things I can see. Or, you're not going to focus on all that in the middle of the night. You're like, I don't have time for that, Debbie. But, what can I focus on in that moment just to be able to change? Let me change the temperature by getting a cold glass of water. Let me, sometimes I will tell patients to, if they have like cotton balls, to put, like, if they like essential oils like lavender, it's supposed to be really relaxing. So they can put that on there. And if they wake up from like a nightmare, they can sort of pull it out, and it can sort of deviate those thoughts to, give them more of a calm and demeanor during that time. So there's a lot of different ones, but really it comes down to restructuring how we think, because sometimes we're taught, growing up, we may not have had that positive in our life, and like, you're not going to be anyone. That's a huge one that a lot of patients that I meet with, they've never really had any positive impact. So how can I change my thought process to say, you know what, I am someone. I showed up today. You know what, sometimes it's the simplest thing is, you know what, I brushed my teeth. You know what? I got out of bed. I took a shower. You know, if it's praying, that's one, I'm part of the assessments that I do. We talk about cultural or spiritual. You know, I have a lot of patients that believe in God, some don't. I mean, it's just, you know, my job is not to convince you, right? I start where, you know, my job is to begin where they are. It's not about Debbie's agenda, but it's working. I don't say this is what you need to do. Like, what can we do, right? It's a process together. So it's not just about me. It's not about me at all. It's really helping them to learn how to problem solve during those times.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to take questions from the audience, but Kinetria, I have one last question for you. Do you think that people need to be having a therapist all through their lives? Do you think there should be a time? Oh, come to therapy, give it about a year, 6 months, you know. You
I
think
think
it's a time limit?
therapy is helpful depending on your environment. Because sometimes you have what you need right in your environment. But therapy can help you identify those things in your environment. If you look around and you don't see anything that can help you guide you to where you want to go, therapy can help you do that. It gives you that time and space to identify everything that you need and talk about the process and talk about what that means and what the path and journey looks like. The ultimate goal, like she says, self-sufficiency in the end. It's not to have you stay forever, but once you find someone that you can trust and you feel seen and heard, you kind of do want to, you probably would want to stay there forever, you know, but if you find stability through it, no, I don't think you need it forever.
Okay. So we're gonna come him from ministry, right? Therapy, doctor, community, therapy, right? So do we have any other questions from the audience? Anyone ask a question before we close out?
What Miss Deb just said, what was that word again, that you changed your way of thinking, the TV?
Oh, so like cognitive restructuring. Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to say something like, I'm faking it till I make it. And then I remember as I know, Enoshja was just talking about, a lot of times we wear so many titles as mothers, grandmothers, community, church, just so many things we do. We dress it up, the ponytail on, the clothes, everything is perfect, but inside you're going through so much. But I used to say fake it till I make it, and then somebody's like, face it till you make it. So even though the outside looked good, the clothes, everything put together, makeup, hair, whatever, you still got to show up to do all these things to take care of everyone in the community and, you know, work and stuff like that. But I noticed that what I do is Wednesday I drag in to Zumba. I'm not gonna dance. I have a sister circle that I don't have any brothers or sisters, parents. So I made my family, and so I have a sister circle. We text first thing in the morning. Sometimes they too early, but I'll catch up about 9 o'clock on the text, and then throughout the day. And we just remind each other that we love one another, or how's your day? And if you're not having a good day, we have a breathing exercise we do. Inhale, faith, we take a real deep breath, exhale, fears. And we do that like 3 or 4 times together. But now we all meet together to dance, laugh at each other. I'm here, just, you know, I'm here. And then before you know, I'm dancing, I'm sweating. We're all sweaty and you feel good. You're happy when you leave all of that energy, that stress, life. And then the same thing about church. You get there, the feeling, the word, the encouragement to get you through another week, and you're still putting on those hats and stuff and taking care of people. But I noticed that, like, since COVID, it's been even more of a struggle. We've lost a lot of friends and loved ones. So I'm struggling with losing people. Like, this month I just turned a year older. I'm 55. I said 55 in my life. But I'm struggling where I lost a friend close to me in church and different ones around me that didn't get to see their grandkids or live, you know, happy. So I'm dealing with that. A lot of close friends through COVID, my age, they didn't even get to see their kids grow. They didn't get to see their grandkids. So I'm struggling with losing them and trying to live and be happy. And so I do swimming, I pray in the community helping people, but it's hard when you lost loved ones, and the holidays is worse.
I love the acknowledgement. Can I say that? You're in touch with your feelings. You're acknowledging the grief. You're allowing yourself to express it. And not only that, you have a team of women to uplift you and look at it as a blessing. Yes, and you live on. I know you maybe have good connections with their children and their grandchildren, but that's how you just continue to show up and just be present with them. You're blessed. You're really blessed.
And just to add on to just the way of thinking from the spiritual side, when you're in line with the reality of God being eternal, there's no death for God. But then when you start to crack the scriptures, through Jesus says, ye are all gods, children of the most high God. And so the reconnection to God through words is one thing. But to your point, when you live God, and then that keeps us in that spin. It keeps us in that spin. So as a healing team, we want to somehow figure out how can we start getting our people to fast, because fasting actually, they say, mortifies the body. It kills the desires of the body. Something happens when you're fasting, whereas you're not trying to, you ain't looking at somebody else's Mercedes and somebody else's car. You're looking for food, man. Then you start to realize how blessed you are that you have a God that not only gives you food to eat, gives you food that tastes good and is good for you. So as you start to realign with what God's plan is, his healing plan is, then all the things that seem to be a loss to us no longer become a loss. I know for me, when my mother transitioned and everyone thought, oh man, I'm so sorry your mother passed. I said, my mother didn't die. My mother is more alive today than she's ever been. This is not to say anything against what you're saying, Miss Pam, but I recognize something, that life continues, because the only reason why we have death is because God ordained it. Everyone that comes into this world, comes into this planet and into this physical life, they have to do one thing for sure. They have to die. So death and life are part of a cycle that we have to come to know, like you learn about menopause and perimenopause, or different things that we were not familiar with in the past. When we learn the cycles of life, you start to find out that and I heard this story told, that as little sperm, there was from 1 million to 1 billion little tiny sperm that had to go through a hostile environment in order to meet an egg. And there was a crossroads that you had to make a decisions, but we were just sperm. But all of us that made it here today, we made it through a hostile environment, and God chose for us to be here in real life. So we all have what is needed to go through this other birthing process, which is going from the physical to the mental, and from the mental to the spiritual. And when we get to the spiritual, that's when we find rest. But it's a birthing process that is the most difficult process in life. The meeting with God it's similar to giving birth, and it's similar to dying and leaving this planet. There's a pain that goes along with it, and all of us have to struggle. And I remember someone said to me, "Oh, brother, nobody will want to harm you, brother Courtney. You the good brother." I said, "But they killed Jesus." I can't say that word, right? They killed Jesus Christ. It's not because you could, but everyone has a struggle that they have to go through. And the struggle is against the thoughts that you have, the thoughts that continue to bring us down. But in truth, Mrs. Pam, we need a healing team to help us through it, to remind us of those things. That one thing that I realized, and Sister Kinetria sits there to remind me, is that I lost one of my best friends, my companions, and a fellow colleague. How old are you?
34,
How many years ago? So
31 years.
31 years ago, who I had planned my life around. And I had just started my dream, our dream, my biggest business. And in the street world, he got killed. And I didn't think I can cry anymore, but it brought me down. But I didn't stop. And then the Most High rewarded me with his child. To sit here with me and see God never makes a mistake, never makes a mistake. That is understood. Whoever comes into this life is ordained to be here, and whoever leaves this life is ordained to leave this life. And every life is for us to learn from. And as we learn from that life, that's what gives us more life. So not to go into the grave, but to understand that this is a cycle that God has given us. So thank you, Sister Enoshja, for your struggle and showing us that God does heal.
One thing I wanted to say too is that, recognizing when someone's hurting. So what I just saw happen in the audience, the hugs that you just got, the tissue you just got, it's important for us to see each other. Sometimes we get, and it happens to all of you, you get busy, you kind of miss things. But I try to make sure that my spidey sense is tingling, so to speak. And we do a lot of training in the health center about mental health, from the front desk to the back. I can have somebody in the front say, "Miss so-and-so, they don't look right when they came in." That'll get back to one of the nurses. That'll get back to me. Next thing you know, I'm Teams and Debbie like, "Hey, so-and-so, I may need you in a minute," because something's recognizing that somebody is hurting is so important. I'm not saying you got to take care of everybody, but there's times when it's you that's supposed to do this. You know what I mean? And you needed that. That was probably the most beautiful thing. It was just beautiful to see everybody love you. You needed a moment of love, and that's okay. You're not weak. You're not anything. You're just somebody who needs love and understanding. Because we've all been in, like Brother Courtney said, we're all going to lose somebody. I hope somebody's going to hug me. I want some love. And I think that's what I see in our patients. They want that. There's times when they're going to want it and they're going to need it. And I just pray my eyes are open, my heart is ready, and we're ready to deal with that, whatever that may mean. We can only do so much, but we can do something. All of us can do something. And that right there, that's what our community as a people need to be ready to do for each other.
I would like to say something. What I realize is dealing with us human beings is when you go through problems in life, and we all have emotions. Just to say, speaking like if you were angry, okay? Growing up, I was told to suppress the anger. Like, don't show that you're angry. But when you do that, the tension builds up and the anxiety builds up, which cause ailments. It can lead to all types of things, mental illness, lupus, all types of things, because you suppress the way you feel. As an adult now, I learned how to express my feel. Like, I'm angry and I'm going to get it out my system, cleanse my system out through prayer. that helps calm me down and relax me all the way. But I noticed that's a huge problem in the Black community is to suppress your emotions. Like everything is just going to go away on its own. We have a lot of problems with ourselves and we don't want to deal with the issues at hand. And the question I ask myself is, life, first I said life is full of problems. I ask myself, do you want to deal with your problems head on? Or do you want to be dead and you won't have no problems?
Mhm.
And of course, my answer is, no, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight because it's necessary and it's very important. But prayer helps me along all the way. It calms my mind, my spirit, my soul, and I love it.
Thanks for sharing. It's good. That's good, yes.
There's a saying, rise above emotions. Not suppressing, rise above emotions into the thinking of God.
And recognizing that we're worthy. When you believe that you're worthy to speak up for yourself or to love yourself, it just, I'm worthy to live a beautiful, healthy life. And that's the beginning, and truly believe in that. And then you begin to see your actions align with it. So that's love. I see that you got love for yourself, so I appreciate that.
Like therapists that you can go online to find. There is the National Association for Black physicians that you can go to as well to find in the area. So there are Black physicians that were out here. More, people to go into a physician, a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, a therapist, these are the areas where we've got to encourage our young folks to go into. I always say, well, I got to retire, at some point I don't want to. So I have to encourage the next generation. I have like a little small mentoring group that we're just meeting online on Zoom. But one is a psychiatrist. She's in residency for psychiatry. Another one is an internist. And another young lady is she's pre-med. And we all just talk along with Debbie because I want to be able to deal with what I've gone through, what they may have to go through. They can share what they're going through, but the mental health aspects of getting through this process, it's not easy becoming a healthcare provider. And a healthcare provider of color is even harder.
My mom was a registered nurse, and we're talking back in 1950, or late 1950s, early 1960s. And then when she went, got her bachelor's in nursing, and then working. So I've heard the stories. I've heard, when my parents thought I was asleep, and I heard some of the things my mother said that she had to deal with being an African American and in a healthcare environment. And she was very good at what she did. But yeah.
In the 50s was a lot. And then when she became the head nurse for special procedures and radiology at the University of Rochester, it, like you said, thought I was asleep or we sit at the table. Stories I heard, I was like,
Yeah.
so it was definitely my goal to have more of a team environment at the health center, that everyone's profession is respected for what they bring to the table. And don't like, I'm not a therapist. That's why I'm like, you gotta go to the therapist. I'm not a nurse. I need the nurse to help. Everybody's profession is to be respected. When that doesn't happen, it is. I saw the anguish, the mental health anguish my mother would have to go through. Church, God was, you went for sure, because she was, the beat down was a lot, and just listening to what she went through, learning from that, trying to apply that differently, and making sure that, like I said, God's got to be the center. I have to, and then being able to talk about it. She talked about this stuff. She didn't stuff, like you said, stuffing it in. Like you just said, the young lady said, stuffing it in. We talked about it some at the dinner table. It was just, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She was hurting. She was tired, but she was talking. And I think having an environment, like, so you got to have that community of friends where you can talk about this stuff openly and get solutions. Everybody just can't jump in and say, yeah, that's bad. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? Because you got to be solution oriented as well. And that's kind of what we do on that Zoom call. It's like, okay, so what's going to happen next? Because I don't need some people to always jump in with me. I'm like, it's already bad. We don't need to keep talking about how bad it is.
Right.
I'm like, let's do, okay, so now here's the situation. How can I handle this differently the next time? So, I think for you, just like I said, looking at the National Association for Black physicians, looking to your insurance company, looking for websites that have Black mental health providers. They're out there. They really are. We do exist. We are real. There aren't many, but we do exist.
And I just want to say too, I think part of with the Black community, why we have backed off of talking about our emotions. However, now we're starting to shift, I think, more than we did years ago, was that because we could literally be killed if we showed emotion, if we showed our anger, if we showed our frustration, or if we showed anything, because it was like, when you walk out this door, I need you to come back home. And so we do have that even now to some in some aspect. But I think we're moving into a new age and we're more ready to talk about it. And sessions like this help us to be more comfortable talking about what's really going on with us emotionally or mentally. So I think I love these health forums. Are really, really good.
I know that I work somewhere where there's like 400 employees, and the site that I'm at, there's like 100. And I am the face of this place, the voice of this place. And even though we are all going to be like I said, wearing different hats and titles and stuff like that, during the week, when I walk in there 8 something in the morning to 4:30, I know the 100 people that come in my building. I know their name. And like you said, you see what people are going through. They did a segment on me, and it was just something like, every morning when somebody come in, like tomorrow, I'll say Mindset Monday. Good morning. Happy Mindset Monday. Like, where are you? Or Miracle Monday, or Magical Monday, Terrific Tuesday, Teachable, Worthy, Wonderful. Every day I got a saying, and they love looking for what I'm going to say. Sometimes I make it up on my way in there, like trying to put my lipstick on to get to work. And like, what am I going to say different today? And people come in looking for that, like to grasp, to hold on to something. And sometimes I'll just walk down the hallway where there's 50 people on their computers and stuff. And I just blurt out, today is Wishful Wednesday. What do you wish for? But don't tell me. Just think about it. And some people have a hard time all day while they're doing their work, just trying to think what they wish for. And then I'll laugh and say, behind me, there's like this big view in my office that says, it's an ocean, Jamaica. And I said, if your wish includes anything with sand, sun, and water, include me in it, And it makes them laugh. But I've had people come to me lately like, I want to send that to other offsites, which you say to everybody here. Can you type that up? And I'm like, I'm thinking I just make it up walking into work. But they grasping on it like, Miss Pam, what's today? and they're trying to mimic it or copy it and can't do it like I do it. But it's interesting to see that, you know, the way Miss Pam is doing this, she got people thinking and they're taking it to other sites and stuff. But it's encouraging that I can see everyone that walk in, and you can see sometimes if somebody's off. And I said that in the interview. You try to be that person, that face in the morning, because you just don't know what somebody went through this weekend, the night, baby kept them up all night, domestic violence, car trouble. So many people walk in and I could read something that's going on with them. I'm like, good morning. And I just reach out and we do a hug. Sometimes we just inhale, exhale, a prayer. And I'm doing that for about 100 people. Not everybody need it, but you know what I'm saying? Every day is something going on, child support, trouble in a relationship, no food, no gas. And I'll say, here's a couple dollars, because I realized they didn't go to lunch. That means they didn't have any money. They didn't want to move the car. And there's just so many things going on in everybody's life while we're going paycheck to paycheck. But I'm that face, I'm that voice, just ministering, touching lives that otherwise they wouldn't say anything. And one lady, when I hug her, she just started crying. She said, you do this to me every time. And it's love, but she needed it. She's going through something with cancer and, you know, she related that to me, but a lot of people don't know. And I'm just like, good morning. And she'll say, good morning. I give her that hug and I hand her a tissue box while I'm hugging her. So again, just a smile, kind word, something to make them think. Mindset Monday. You know, Pastor was saying today in church, we got to stop umming and hawing and being negative and murmuring. Like, I was going out this morning and I looked at that white stuff coming down 10 o'clock this morning. I was like, man. So you got to stop murmuring instead of looking at it positive. You know what I'm saying? We're able to see the snow. Thank you, Lord, that we're able to see another day or the sunshine or, oh, it's dark at 4:30. Oh, that's another title.
Spring is still
That's
coming.
another question. It's getting dark at 4:30. Seasonal depression.
Oh, yeah.
Can we talk about something with that too? I mean, it's taken some time to adjust to when I leave work, it's 4:30, but 4:15 it's dark.
It's right.
And it's like, you don't want to go anywhere. You just want to go home and put on your pajamas. But I have to push myself to bring the clothes for Zumba, bring the clothes for swimming afterwards. Just don't go home until 9:30. If I go home, it's a wrap. So I just make sure I try tonight, get everything ready for tomorrow. Just keep going. Bible study, swimming, Zumba, swimming. Swimming, I love swimming. Zumba, I get here until she played right music. And then I gotta make sure I go relax my bones and joints, swimming, you know, so it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock, just to keep me out the house, keep me going. But that seasonal thing is real too.
But think about what you said, like when we have to change our thought process, because I mean, it is hard when you get out, it's dark outside. Okay, it's dark out, but you know, you try to make the best of it. I mean, some people will use light therapy, but I mean, there's so many different studies on it, what could work, you know, some people have you take medication, but you know, part of it really is mindset and how you think about things and how you can change that thought process. Because it is hard, it is real. I mean, I see a lot of patients with it, but it's just, you know, really taking one thing at a time. And sometimes it's just practicing those positive affirmations, like what's something positive that I could think about? Yeah, it's dark out, but you know, what's one good thing in my day? I know it sounds very simple, but to me, it's all about the simple things in life. You know, so really changing that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just to say, you know, it is true that vitamin D does play a role in our mental health and our,
Sleep.
you know, sleep, rest, illness, colds, because vitamin D is actually a hormone, you know, so it is a cofactor in a lot of different immune system response. So we might have to take some of that cod liver oil, excuse me, some of that vitamin D. You know, or you know, whatever, right? But one thing that is understood from the mental and spiritual side is as soon as you get comfortable, God tests you with a new challenge. God, he don't want us to ever get comfortable, only get comfortable with him. But he's always changing the situation so that we never get comfortable and we learn to master everything out here. So yeah, sister, you're gonna have to master this.
I take the vitamins, I do all.
You could become Amish. They don't go according to daylight savings time. But the earth does shift on its axis.
You know, you thank God that you're somewhere like, you know, you look at Jamaica and stuff like that. I can at least walk out, see some snowdrops, some different form of water, you know what I'm saying? And my house is still standing. I'm able to still slide to my car and,
Yeah.
you know, and there's nowhere where like California, there's all of these earthquakes and these fires, you know, they can breathe, you know, thank you for the crisp, air in Cornhill. Those kind of things, because at least I can come back to my home, with a little snow and a little fresh air and a little darkness, but at least I have a home, so I think
Imagine those, the bobsledding, what, the Olympic team? How much they broke people out of that home, and started thinking about coming up here to bobsled and snow and ice and cold. But that helped to break us out of that comfort zone too, so anything's possible.
I just wanted to kind of address also Elisa's question about mental health, how to find a mental health professional in the area. I'm trying to find other mental health professionals that are in the area, so I'm glad to see it. I'm always excited when I hear of other Black folks that, get their degrees, because we need other Black. I do have a private practice in the area, but again, there's 1 degree of separation for us that grew up in Utica, right? So there's so many people that I can't take, right? I need to be able to refer out. Or I go on vacation, I need coverage. I don't have that. So I'm always trying to find, like, I've talked to Tioka about, like, do you know other, like, Black professionals that are licensed in the area that, again, I can collaborate with? Like, I feel like we need community resource of mental health professionals in the area, so that we could refer to, somebody comes to one of you could refer them to somebody. Right, so again, I am licensed, but I can't see you. But
Why?
Why? It's unethical, because I grew up with you. I know you, so
And that's the other thing is, like, that
Mhm.
there are Black health professionals in your area, but you're like, it's too close to home, and you just feel like I
Even
want
though
somebody who
HIPAA?
does.
even though HIPAA, even though,
Because
No,
there's
it's
like
a-
a
it's
relation,
a-
there's a
yeah, it's a-
relationship
Yeah.
there, and for me, I would want somebody. I don't want you to know nothing about me.
Exactly. And that
No
was why I
background, no
wanted-
nothing. I want to come to you and feel like I'm just starting plain out. I'm gonna spill my guts. I'm gonna spill them, and I don't want to have to feel like, okay, you remember when I was this age and I made this mistake, and are you thinking about that when I'm telling you this?
So,
And
like,
because you don't want that. I want to just feel like free to dump it, and let's figure out how I can move forward. And I don't think I would feel that freedom to do that with somebody who knows me, who I've known since I was a child. That's for me. I don't know how other people may feel differently, but for me, it would be important to somebody who knows absolutely nothing about me, or at least I think nothing about me.
I asked that question. I know Sabrina as well. We grew up together in the same block, kind of same age as well. So, and she's the only professional that I think I know that's African American here in our community. Would love to go to her, but like you said, you want that blank canvas,
And I need help. I need help. I'm one person, and I always have a waiting list, and I'm always turning people away, and it's hard. So I think we need to gather that community list.
I think that's a great idea.
Especially now that there's no stigma that people are reaching out for help, and like this young lady said, a lot of times what happens at home, stay at home, and all the things you fight through and hold in till it eats you up. And now we know better, we do better. So, talking about it, showing that, what was the word you used, Enoshja? That, awareness, thank you. Awareness and, ready to share and, again, more healthier eating, more exercise, spiritual, social, all of that. When I don't have any family, literally. Immediate family, so you make your family. And I think that's the circle, that's my sister's circle. We swim together, we pray together, we fast together, dance together. So, and check each other several times a day. Some early, 6 in the morning, And some others might need to catch up at 9, once I'm at work, have my cup of tea, and, at night, finish it with a dance or swim or something. Are you home safely? Just, that love, that support.
I'll also add really quick, for people who might not have these pages or networks of people that they can lean on when they're dealing with a mental health crisis, like people like in our family or like there's people like in our neighborhood, it's important to check on your strong friends. Some people have no warning signs. Some people just show up and they're not going to do anything. But behind closed doors, they're falling apart. I was one of them. And so we don't even understand how contagious a positive action going to work is, or somebody walking by saying hi or asking how our day was can really shift somebody's whole life and daily. So it's important. Check on your strong friends.
I remember when me and Brother Patrick Johnson used to speak, and would give him information to read and he said, man, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village. It takes a village. And I said, brother, we don't have one. We don't even have a village. So what are you talking? And then he's rebuilding the village. So the reality is that we don't have community. So, what I hear from Dr. Jones is there is a difference in the Western way of professional ethics and everything. And then there's an Eastern way, which is our natural way where we are the healing. The community does know what's going on with each and every individual, but because we've lived these lives very different than what we are naturally truly about, we're trying to fit into a construct that we just don't fit into. And then when it comes down to it, their way of, I don't want to use the word professionalism or healing, is not necessarily what we need as a community. This is something that is going to come through us. It's happening as we're speaking right now. God has deposited things within each of us that Dr. Jones found that whatever her career choice in her heart and her faith, God was drawing that out of you. Same thing with our sister Debbie, same thing with you. We're seeing God's hand now working through us. And sometimes when we put the greed understanding in front of the village, so, to the point we might be losing. We have to have that balance to know when God is coming through us. And as my mother says, sometimes we need those degrees to validate us. But sometimes true friendship and having someone that knows you inside and out helps in the healing process if they have ethics. So we have to start to bring about people in our community that you can trust. So believe it or not, everyone has the ability to heal. Everyone to help in the healing process and to heal others. And those that are healing others, we still need healing. So it's a village concept that God is, as we start to put down or start to become more and more humble and recognizing in truth, man, we all crazy. There wouldn't be a need for a new world, a new beginning, if we all had it right. So God is tired of this world that has destroyed us as a people and humanity. And now it's time to bring in something new. And if you just think about the new world that's coming in, it helps you get through this old, decrepit, hateful, wicked, deceitful, lying, trick world that we've been living in, that's been constantly destroying us and suppressing us and keeping us from rising to what God wants of us. And that's just peace of mind and contentment of heart. How many people have I run into in the prison that went through that journey of chasing that dollar and chasing everything else, and then come to the final understanding, man, bro, I would just be good with just peace, not having to look over my shoulder. I would be better. But they found out that they were chasing a dream and a lie that this world produces. But when we start to get back into our right mind, our life is more valuable than silver and gold. And we will always start to value ourselves and love ourselves. But to your point, sister, it takes time to learn that. But that's the birthing process. It's going to take some pain. but the pain will bring about some joy at the end. And that's where all of our great accomplishments as a people have come through suffering and pain and resilience. So God brings us through us to bring it, to birth us into something new. So yes, Sparkle.
Could someone speak like about the effect of grief on your mental health? I lost my mom, and it's been a year, a little over a year. And I feel, now I'm starting to feel like I'm coming out of that fog. I don't know if either any of you could speak on that and what you know about the effect of grief on your mental health.
I mean, it's it's unfortunate. Like this is what I always say is in order to get through it, you have to go through it, right? It sounds so weird, but you have to go through that grieving process. And it is normal for it to take a year. I mean, you don't forget about it, but you have to go through it. There's so many different changes that happen within that year when you're grieving. Your emotions are all over the place. Sometimes you're feeling depressed, sometimes you're feeling anxious, or even sometimes people will have hallucinations of their loved ones. And, within that year process, a lot of times it is normal, but you have to go through it. It's hard, but, it's trying to remember all the good times, trying to, think of ways to, honor your family members or honor your mother during that time. And, whether it's seeking some type of grief group or talking to individuals or faith, or going to church. I mean, anything like that sort of helps you through that process. But yeah, it's hard. We have to go through it, and sometimes when you try to suppress it, then it gets more complicated, especially after a year, then it becomes more complicated grief. And sometimes then I see individuals need even more help because it's so much. They're so overwhelmed with it.
I think
We have a prayer. I seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. So grief, as we're taught, is a sense of loss. And what happens is you accumulate these losses. So when you grieve and you don't have the mechanisms to overcome the sense of loss, which Sister Tioka has some things that we have studied to deal with this. What happens is it connects all the way to your earliest losses. So it's not just the loss rate there, it actually is connected to a lot of things. So that's why you can feel it in your stomach, in your gut. It confuses your mind. And then it brings about, the feeling of just wanting to pour out. You just want to get, you want to get it out. But then, like I said, there's a prayer, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. Now, as a Muslim, we're not allowed to grieve. So now that doesn't mean that we don't, but that forces us to find the path towards not grief. So we have to go to the Creator in order to deal with what we're feeling. We can't do it within ourselves. So that's the difference. And I don't want to bring about the differences in religion or anything, but as a Christian, which I still am, right? I was not taught how to deal with grief. I thought that you're supposed to have it. But then when I came into a different knowledge, it told me I have to learn not only to deal with it, I have to bring it to my Creator. And as I brought those things to my Creator, I found out that these tools actually worked. But Sister Tioka has some of those tools. And that's one of the things that I realized in the prison system, that our brothers have so many losses and they're in so much depression. And because they have these losses, they don't have no way of dealing. Religion doesn't touch it. You know what I mean? Therapy doesn't touch it. But there has to be a release of it. And the sister does have something that she can talk to you about it. I don't mean to be animated about it, but there is. I felt that joy of when my mother passed, and I said to myself, I want to give this to everyone. I want them to feel the same way that I feel. And you would think it was a loss, but it became like, I know she is still alive. She's still doing, but it came through me searching. It came through me laying it in God's hands and then letting him work on me. So when the time came, man, I had to dig a grave. You remember that, right? I had to literally dig a grave, right? Me and 40 other folks. But that helped the process also. But just to say, sister, there is relief for you. Absolutely, because she wouldn't want you.
No, I can hear her now.
See, so something happened good because you're smiling, and that's an indication that it's rising. But Tioka does have something that we've been trained in, actually, that can help that process.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you have grief, it is important to share that with your primary care provider. I thought there was a patient I had whose daughter had died. They said, we talked, and he said, I feel like my heart is broken. And I said, well, what do you mean exactly? And he's like, sometimes it hurts. And I said, you mean like chest pain? And he said, yeah, because like you said, this brings about physical change. I got him to the cardiologist. He had to get a stent. So don't, you got to talk about this stuff. You can't just assume, oh, I'm just going to get over it. You got to talk about it as a community. Please share it with your primary. I'm not saying that everything, but stressful events bring out a lot of physical things that can happen. People get suddenly diagnosed with diabetes. Their blood pressure goes up. Yeah. All those things need to be addressed so they don't take you out or take you to a step you don't want to go to. My goal is I'm going to try to prevent heart attack, stroke, diabetes, all those things. So if you share those things with me that are going on, yeah, we're going to check, but I also need you to go see the therapist because I've got to take care of all of that. I can't do just one, but if I don't know, I don't want to find out when I get your hospital discharge summary that you told the hospitalist, well, yeah, this is why I'm here, but you never shared it with your primary when we could have maybe done something, ahead of time to prevent those things. Because those things are real. If you're feeling those things, you need to let somebody know. Don't ignore those feelings. But I think, again, what I just saw, you shared, Sister Tioka came over, again, saw, not ignored. We are the community. Brother Courtney keeps saying, we keep talking about, it's like, we're here. Mm-hmm. We're already showing this is how you do it. You just love one another. You see, you go, you treat, you love, you help get to the next level. And that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, for Chris Sutherland, who's watching from Facebook, he says, thank you for having this conversation. Okay, thank you for watching, Chris. And then Chosen 111 from watching from YouTube says, enjoying this conversation. What do you advise to keep your mental health in check if you don't go to therapy or to church? I think we answered something like that. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to close us out now because I kept you all. Good. It's good stuff, yes. Woo, family, what a night. Thank you all. My heart is full and my spirit is beaming. I'm really happy right now for this conversation. I'm settled and I feel renewed. So tonight wasn't just a conversation. It was a communion. It was medicine. It was the community in real time, healing together. To our panel, Dr. Jones, Debbie Hamell-Palmer, Brother Courtney Muhammad, Kinetria Howard, and Enoshja Ruffin. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your truth, your wisdom, your experience, and most of all, your compassion. You reminded us that healing is not one size fits all, but it is possible for all. To our live studio audience, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing, for breathing through the hard parts, and for holding space for yourself and each other. To everyone watching online, thank you for tuning in, commenting, sharing, and being a part of this journey wherever you are. And to the Carol L. Crooms Business Education, Cultural, and Activities Center. Thank you for opening the doors, your space, and your heart to this work. This is important work. Places like this are the backbone of our community and for healing. Remember this, healing doesn't happen in one night, but it does begin with one decision, one step, one breath, one moment of choosing yourself. So tonight, take something you heard, something you felt, something that spoke to you, and let it guide you to your next step. Because your healing blueprint, it starts with you. I'm Sparkle Denise. This has been a production of Reality Speaks TV. Real people, real talk, and real time. May you go in peace, grow in strength, and rise in your purpose. Until next time, stay whole, stay aware, and stay connected. Peace and love, family. Until next time.
Thank you, Sparkle.
Thank you, Sparkle. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.